Today I will tell you a story in which the protagonist was able to find happiness despite her special and unusual beauty. Irina and Sergei Nezentsov were beside themselves in happiness. The couple had a good reason for this boundless joy. They were expecting a daughter. The pregnancy went extremely well. All the tests showed that the little one was perfectly healthy. The day finally arrived. When his wife was in the delivery room, Sergei couldn't stand still. It seemed that at that moment, nobody was happier than the future dad. Back then, he had no idea that very soon he would abandon his long-awaited daughter and leave his beloved wife. What could have possibly happened? When Irina first heard her little one cry, tears of joy rolled down her face. It was an indescribable feeling. She became a mother. But when the woman asked to look at her baby, the doctors exchanged looks. Irina didn't understand what was going on. The eyes of medical professionals reflected fear and confusion. From their faces, Irina understood that something was wrong. When the midwife gave the newborn to Irina, she screamed and almost lost consciousness. A tiny old lady was looking at her. Irina had many questions. The doctors explained that her baby had a rare genetic disorder called progeria. There are only 132 people diagnosed with the disease in the world. And unfortunately, despite the progress of modern medicine, a cure for it has not yet been found. Statistically, few people with progeria make it to 20, but the illness of Irina's daughter was slightly different. Only her face aged, while the rest of her body matched her biological age. The very next day, the woman was offered to give up her daughter, but she didn't want to hear of it. Now she was facing a difficult task, to tell her husband about the situation. She told Sergei that she gave birth to their daughter, but kept quiet about her having special needs. Sergei was happy, and they named the little girl Katya. But when he saw the girl, he unfortunately couldn't accept his old lady daughter. He wanted his child to be like everyone else and had no interest in a sick one. That's why he made the decision to leave the family. After the divorce, Sergei disappeared forever and they didn't hear from him again. He completely gave up on his daughter and took no part in raising her. Irina was left alone with Katya. At the moment when she was abandoned and betrayed by a loved one, Irina decided to give her daughter all the love and care she deserved. Irina never acted differently because of her special daughter. Like all other mothers, she took her to playgrounds and parks, and on trips to the sea. In short, Irina raised her daughter the same way as all other children were raised. Difficulties began when Katya started kindergarten. Children are sometimes cruel and don't accept their special needs peers. They teased Katya, pointed at her, and called her names. Things got even more difficult when the girl started school. Katya was hurt by their constant ridicule and jokes. At first, she was offended and cried often. But later, she simply accepted her unique appearance. I couldn't understand why the other kids did those things to me, since I didn't do anything to them. But one day, I simply decided to ignore them. If they didn't accept me because of my appearance, I would win them over with my kindness and intelligence, since appearance is not everything, Katya later explained. Slowly, Katya's classmates stopped teasing her. They started to hang out with her, and she even had a best friend. The only thing that made her sad was that she had no success with boys. Nobody asked her out. She began thinking that she would never have a husband or kids, and that she would live out the rest of her life alone. Katya's best friend understood her anxieties and decided to help. One day, she wrote a letter about a girl's difficult fate to Audrey Malakoff's talk show. It interested the producers, and Katya was invited to the studio. That's when, in 2011, the whole country found out about the old lady girl. Millions of spectators were sympathetic to Katya. The specialists invited onto the show agreed to help her. They offered to make her at least a little bit younger with the help of plastic surgery. It was my chance, and I couldn't miss it. The surgeons did a tremendous job, and for that, I am very grateful," said Katya. The girl was ready to start a new life. It's also important to note that she was a very pleasant companion, as well as a kind and sympathetic person. Soon afterwards, Katya began going out with a young man who fell in love with her, not for her looks, but for her kind heart. The young man was charmed by her charisma, and her unique appearance did not bother him at all. Their relationship was full of passion. They got married 6 months after their first date. The wedding was exactly what Katya dreamed of. A festive ceremony and a white dress. The young woman's happiness knew no bounds. A year later, Katya became a mother. She gave birth to a son who became her life's purpose. Soon afterwards, she gave birth to another little boy. It so happened that unfortunately, her youngest son inherited her illness. It is this event that began to destroy Katya's marriage. After the diagnosis, her husband immediately lost interest in the second son. Katya was offended by this, but her husband had no intention of changing his attitude. He went on walks only with Misha and paid attention only to him. It was as if Gleb didn't exist at all. Later, Katya's husband began to drink a lot. He blamed her for all their troubles. For a long time, Katya put up with his behavior, but in the end, decided to get a divorce. Just like her father, her husband didn't see the need in taking care of his children after leaving the family. But friends, do you think that's the end of the story? Of course not. Katya turned out to be a real fighter, and for the sake of her sons, she continued to fight against the whims of fate. Today, Katya is 25 years old, and she is in a relationship with a man who stands by her. She feels truly happy. He takes care of her and is a good father to her sons. The young woman with the face of a grandma no longer talks to journalists. She disabled all of her social media accounts and decided she doesn't want to make a show of her personal life. The whole country talked about Katya, and she showed them that outward beauty is not the main weapon in life. Our souls and inner peace are most important. Katya is grateful to her mother, who didn't forsake her and believed in her until the end. She believed that she would be happy one day because every person on the planet deserves happiness. Of course, Katya is not the exception. We wish this strong woman luck and hope that her life turns out exactly the way she wants it.